All right. Hi, very good evening, guys. Welcome to a live class by me for perhaps the last time in the foreseeable future. Uh, just give me a moment as I set the apparatus up and check and confirm if we're live yet or not. Just allow me some time to confirm that. Um, yeah. Yes, we are live. Okay, cool. Um, so this is pretty much about me. For the past few months, hi, Kritika. Welcome to the class. The past few months I've been teaching at an academy. Um, these are my credentials. I'm a published author, I'm a trainer, a coach, and currently I run a startup by the name of Thought Sutra. Uh, I've been presiding over the verbal ability as well as the reading comprehension portions of these exams, right? So even though that today is my last day at an academy, but my videos are going to be available both on the YouTube channel as well as on the Unacademy platform. So if you've got any concepts that you want to kind of go through, feel free to utilize my videos for the same. These are a few features that add to the Unacademy advantage. This class is being conducted on the platform on the YouTube channel, but similarly, we've got classes being conducted on the Unacademy portal, right, where there's enablement of real-time interaction between the learners as well as the educator. We regularly conduct tests and quizzes as well. In fact, the we conducted an Unacademy combat today at 12 p.m. You'll find quite a lot of structured courses on the platform, all of which are very much in line with your exam syllabus. And with one subscription, you'll get unlimited access to it all. These are the various subscription models. You can clearly see as the time period goes up, the cost of the subscription per month goes down dramatically. And if you use my name Prankur, you'll get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you go for. Said that, let's start with the first question. So, what do you guys make of this? In the hunter's argument, the first line plays which of the following roles? And I've highlighted that line. That line is in red as well. Right? What role does it play? What is it trying to get at? Hi, Dharmal. E is what you're saying? Alright. What do you think, Kritika? What do you make of it? Alright, so what is the situation? The situation here is that the hunter claims that uh, hunters have been identified by many people as the sole cause of the decline in Green Rock National Forest deer population, right? Hunters alone for the decline of the deer population in Green Rock National Forest, right? But the hunter argues that black bears have also contributed to the deer population decline, and black bears are protected and have increased in number. So they have been found to have fed recently on deer as well, right? So this is basically the entire premise of the argument that the hunter is trying to make. So what role is that first line making, right? And I think Dharmil has gotten it right. Kritika, I think Dharmil has gotten it very much right. The answer is in fact E. It introduces a judgment that the argument opposes, right? Because understand that the highlighted sentence, many people blame hunters alone for the decline in Green Rock National Forest deer population over the past 10 years. It is a part of the premise, right? So, what it is doing is that it is citing a judgment that the hunter attributes to many people. Many people claim this, right? Many people have this opinion. So, this is a judgment that many people have, and the hunter claims that this judgment that so many people have, that this judgment, this opinion is very much incorrect, and the hunter opposes the judgment that hunters alone are responsible for the decline in the deer population, because then he goes on to classify black bears as one of the causes as well. So the hunter is basically using this and opposing this judgment to cite his claim, right? When Kritika, you said D, right? It provides evidence in support of the main conclusion. Understand what the main conclusion is. Hunter believes that hunters are not solely responsible for the decline in the deer population, right? So people's suggestion that they are responsible does not really support the hunter's main conclusion at all. In fact, it is opposing the hunter's main conclusion, right? It is no evidence that is supporting the main conclusion of the hunter, it is opposing it. Hi Shruti, welcome to the class. uh, why am I going, Shruti? Because so my startup is picking up steam and I want to devote more time to it. Right now it's like working two jobs in a day, wherein I teach at an academy and then I take care of my startup, and I want to kind of stop doing that. So that's why I decided that it's time. The past few months, I'd been basically working uh, at an academy simultaneously to kind of sustain myself as I built Thought Sutra up. But now Thought Sutra is in a wonderful position. So I just want to dedicate more time and, yeah, build that as a company instead of, kind of continuing with this job. This is a sentence correction question. Guys, I'll give you another opportunity to refine your answer, Shruti and Kriti. Uh, Try to figure out what the subject of the sentence is, right? And then pay attention to the verb. Look for subject verb agreement. This is a subject verb agreement question. Take some time, figure it out. Dharmal says C as well. Dharmal, hi Kushagra. So again, what is the subject? What is the subject here? This is a very clear subject verb agreement question, right? It is testing you on subject verb agreement. The subject is the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, right? We are talking about the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. We are talking about one museum, right? This is a single museum. When we're talking about one museum, the subject becomes singular. If we have a singular subject, we need a singular verb, right? With a singular subject, we need a singular verb, right? So the Egyptian Museum, which contains 120,000 objects from prehistoric times through the Greco-Roman period, this entire is a modifier, right? It is in within two commas, so it is a modifier. You don't have to pay attention to it. You can, in fact, whenever you have such huge modifiers in your sentences, just cut them. Focus on the subject and focus on the verb, right? The subject is Egyptian Museum. This is plural. Subject is singular. Ye is hona chahiye, right? I eliminate options A, B, C, and D because all of them are carrying plural verbs. The one sentence, the one option that is giving me a singular verb is option E. The Egyptian Museum in Cairo, which contains 120,000 objects from prehistoric times through the Greco Roman period, is home to one of the most impressive collections of ancient Egyptian artifacts. Alright, next question. This is an argument evaluation question. Okay, Dharmal says B. Alright, anybody else with your answers? Dharmal, we'll wait for another couple of answers. Shruti says C. Alright, cool. So, what is the situation in the paragraph? What is the situation in the passage? That is something that we must try and figure out. So, the situation is very simple. It is that they are saying that there is one region in a country, right? We are talking about Vistar region in the country of Bellaria, right? Hypothetical names, and they are saying the higher people in this region, people in the Vistar region, they live longer than people in any other region within the country of Bellaria. Right now, the higher average, the higher uh, life expectancy, or basically the average age at the time of death, which is life expectancy, it is attributed to a healthy lifestyle of the people in this region because it is mountainous, right? It is a mountainous terrain, so it demands a physically active lifestyle, and that is what they are attributing the long life to, right? And you have to basically weaken this argument. So, if any of the options plugs a hole into the reasoning, then that would weaken it, right? Now, consider the assumption that underlines the argument that physically active lifestyle required of living in Vistar is responsible for a relatively longer lifespan, a relatively longer longevity basically, right? Now, the mountainous environment, it necessitates, rigorous physical activity. अगर आप थोड़ा भी चलोगे तो आपकी सांस फूलने लगती है, right? That is the thing about mountainous terrain. Now what if, as Shruti pointed out in option C, what if a significant portion of the population has not been conditioned since childhood to lead a physically active life? What if people have just shifted here in recent times? What if people shift here after retirement? Right? That means that their body is not conditioned to a physically active lifestyle. Then that cannot be contributing to their longevity, right? There has to be some other reason, right? So it is assumed here that the healthy lifestyle imposed by the mountainous terrain, it has shaped residents from birth and accounts for their longer lifespan. But if many residents move there later in life, the argument is definitely weakened, right? So Shruti and Kushagra also got it right. Now I'll validate it with options A and B, because Kriti went with A and Dharmil went with B. See, A says in Bellaria all medical expenses are paid by the government, so that personal income does not affect the quality of healthcare a person receives. But understand, Kritika, that the argument is not about quality. The argument is not really about the quality of healthcare, right? The argument is not about this. The argument is about the length of people's lives. The argument is about their longevity, the reason behind their longevity. Now, Dharmil, you went with B. B says the Vistar region is one of Bellaria's least populated regions. The rate of population density does not really affect your longevity, does it? So it is not even a part of the premise of the argument, so it is out of scope. It does not really influence the argument in any manner. Okay? So there's that. The answer to this question was in fact C. Next question. Yes. Again, this is an argument evaluation question. You have to weaken the argument. Which of the following, if true, would cast the most serious doubt on the accuracy of the group's contention? Alright, Kushakra, thank you for your answer. Anybody else? Shruti says D as well. Okay, Kritika says D as well. Alright, wonderful. So the situation was very simple, that there is a conservation group that kind of claims that bats are feared and persecuted only because they are, shy nocturnal animals. Right? So you had to cast a doubt on their proposed explanation, right? So if people fear bats, only because these animals are shy and they are active at night, then other species that share these same attributes of, shyness and of nocturnal activity, of nighttime activity, then they should be equally feared as well, right? Yet raccoons and owls, similarly shy and nocturnal, they do not elicit the same kind of reaction from people. So it does cast a very clear doubt, right? It suggests, so this particular option, option D, it suggests, uh, it basically suggests the factors other than bats' shyness and nocturnal habits are needed to kind of explain our fear for bats. For example, we could have false beliefs about what bats do, or how bats bite, stuff like that. So there could be other reasons for the fear, because other animals such as raccoons and owls, they are also shy, they are also nocturnal, they are also active only at night, yet we do not fear them at all. So D is in fact the answer. Okay, hi Manasvi, you are saying A. So let me explain why A is not the answer as well. A says bats are steadily losing natural roosting places such as caves and hollow trees, and are thus turning to more developed areas for roosting. See, understand that this information kind of seems to refer to recent changes in bats' habitats, but we are talking about long standing image, right? So, recent changes cannot be in tandem with long standing conditional beliefs, right? A long standing fear, it cannot be explained by a recent change. Okay? So therefore A is not the answer at all. Okay, Parajumble's question. You have to figure out an arrangement and hit me up on the chat with your answers. Alright, 4, 2, 3, 1. Okay. Okay, I think Kritika and Kushagra have kind of gotten it right. The answer will be. Uh, Wait. Right. I think, yeah. So, Kritika and Kushagra have gotten it right. Shruti and Manasvi. The answer is, in fact, 4, 1, 2, 3. Why? Because When you look at statement 4, it introduces the idea of collaborative filtering, that it is a mathematical algorithm by which correlations and co-occurrences of behaviors are tracked and then used to make recommendations. One will basically follow 4. Why? Because of this. If you've seen a line of text on websites that says, now you're giving an example, that says something like customers who bought this also enjoyed that, you have experienced this collaborative filtering firsthand, right? So after this, we go to the problem, that the problem with these algorithms is that they don't take into account a host of nuances and circumstances that might interfere with their accuracy. And then you give an example for the same, that if you bought a gardening book for your cousin, you might get a flurry of links to books about gardening. Now the algorithm has no way of knowing that you hate gardening and only bought this book as a gift. Good. Next question. Hi Alicia, thank you for your answer. Anybody else? हाँ ये देख, हम काफी कुछ जो कवर कर रहे हैं आज वो आएगा आपके आईपीएम में. Alright guys, now pay attention to the pronouns. Like, pay attention to the pronouns. But the vessel kept going away. But the vessel kept going away. He looked around. He looked anxiously around. There was nothing to see but the water and empty sky. He could now barely see her funnel and mass when heaved up on a high wave. Her किसको refer कर रहा है? Her is referring back to the vessel. So they are using her to refer back to the vessel. So right after statement 1, we'll have statement C. He could now barely see her funnel and mass when heaved up on a high wave. There was nothing to see but the water and empty sky. Because he could barely see her, there was nothing to see but water and empty sky. Will follow B, right? He looked anxiously around. He did not know for what. And then we conclude with statement 6, that a breaking wave slapped him in the face, choking him. CAD भी बोला आपने कृतिका, but the answer is CBAD. See, A and D are kind of a pair, right? A and D are kind of a pair. He looked anxiously around. He did not know for what, right? Why are you looking anxiously around? Because you don't know what you're looking for, right? So yeah, this is what the arrangement is. Okay, next question. Alright, Shruti, Manasvi. Let's wait for a couple more submissions. Alright, yes, all of you seem to have gotten it right. Whenever we have additive phrases such as along with, X along with Y, X together with Y, X accompanied by Y, all of these additive phrases, whenever we have these additive phrases, the um, the verb, it takes the form of the X component, right? The verb will always take the form of the X component. The X component here is the journalist. The journalist is singular. Since the journalist is singular, your verb needs to be singular as well. This is a plural verb. This needs to be was. The journalist, along with the camera crew, was kidnapped by the militants last night. Yeah. All right, Manasvi. यहाँ पे तो ऑप्शंस दिए हुए हैं श्रुति. All right, cool. So we have quite a lot of answers now. Um, so we can clearly spot, guys, that sentences, uh, D and C, number one, they are a pair, right? And C will follow D because D is introducing the Salmonella bacterium, which causes infections, right? So C will follow D. For sure, C will follow D. Uh, and that is given to us only in one answer option, which is option D. Uh, we open with A at first. Sorry, we open with B. I'm saying A, but we open with B. Yeah. We open with B. At first, they look the perfect pets, and then we are contrasting the sentiment by saying, but lizards and other pets, they can harbor a salmonella bacterium that makes people sick. And then we talk about how it makes them sick. There were as many as 6,700 reptile caused salmonella infections. Through infections is how this bacteria makes them sick. And then we conclude with A, that people can get infected by handling reptiles and then touching their mouths or an open cut. So BDCA is the perfect arrangement. The answer is option D. Well done. Let's move on to the next question. Alright, this is yet again an argument evaluation question, guys. Shruti and Kritika believe the answer is B. Alright. So the situation is very simple, that because they are saying because more money is spent on safety and maintenance of the machines at a particular factory when demand for its product is high, the average number of job related accidents per employee at the factory should be lower when demand is high. क्योंकि सेफ्टी पे इन्वेस्टमेंट ज्यादा होती है, मशीन को मेंटेन किया जाता है जब डिमांड हाई होती है. दे आर सेइंग कि उस टाइम पे सबसे कम एक्सीडेंट्स होने चाहिए आइडियली, बिकॉज खर्चा भी उसी टाइम सबसे ज्यादा हो रहा है सेफ्टी और मेंटेनेंस के ऊपर. राइट नाउ यू हैव टू वीकन दिस आर्ग्यूमेंट. Right now, what point out of the five that are given to us can actually cast a doubt on this conclusion? See, consider what other conditions can result from high demand for a factory's products. Right? What if when demand is high, more employees are hired to meet the demand, but that is basically done to increase the production. राइट क्योंकि आपको प्रोडक्शन बढ़ानी है, आप जल्दी जल्दी लोगों को हायर कर रहे हो, बट यू डोंट हैव द टाइम टू ट्रेन देम प्रॉपरली. If you don't have the time to train them properly, then there will be quite a lot of job related accidents that are experienced. And therefore, option B, pointed out by Shruti and Kritika, and then by Kushagra, Hardik, and Manasvi. All right, all of you went with B, is it? So yes, the answer is in fact B, that its management hires new workers but it lacks the time to train them properly. So on the job accidents will go up. In this scenario, on the job accidents will go up. Well done. Hardik, I've seen educators, create courses for IPMAT as well. So try to look it up on the platform. There might be a few educators who've structured courses on the IPMAT. प्लस इस यूट्यूब चैनल पे तो होती है ना क्लासेस फॉर इपमैट ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. Hi Abhinav. All right, thank you for your answer. Manasvi also goes with E. Anybody else? Okay, Kushagra and Kritika also go with E. And Manasvi, you'd gotten it right earlier. Why did you change your answer? The answer is in fact E. Why? Because this question is basically testing you on parallelism. Right? So there are two things that Acme Bank is doing. Number one, it is providing services such as mortgages, home improvement loans, automobile loans. This is the last component in the list, right? And financial advice. So आपका list का last component है, उससे पहले you'll put in D, you'll put in and by providing such services as mortgages, home improvement loans, automobile loans, and financial advice, and by staying. This is the second thing that the bank is doing. Number one, Acme Bank is providing these services. Number two, it is staying within the metropolitan areas. Therefore, it has become one of the most profitable stay saving banks in the nation. Right? So by providing had to be made parallel with by staying. So these are two things that the bank is doing. Within the services, financial advice is one of them, right? But staying within the metropolitan area is not one of the services, right? So and staying agar aayega yahan pe, so then what you're saying is that it is one of the services, but staying within the metropolitan area is not a service, it is a feature of the bank, right? So we had to segregate that by putting in the preposition by and by making it parallel to the first part of the sentence, which is another feature that Acme Bank provides services. ठीक है? So the answer here was E. Well done. Now out of the four, you have to pick the odd one out and eliminate that sentence. The other three would form a cogent and a logical, a very coherent paragraph. One of the statements is basically not really gelling well with the other three. All right, we've got quite a few answers now. The answer is, in fact, what the majority of you have gone with, which is D, right? Because the other three sentences are all talking about the uniqueness of all museums, right? That they're not neutral spaces where objects exist without context. They do more than allow us to engage with history and art. Now look at B. They are forms in and of themselves, which to varying degree enable and propagate missions and legacies through design and architecture. Try as some museums might to go unnoticed as simply the pedestal or the wall on which history hangs, there is no escaping the weight of the objects and stories that are told within their agriculture. D is actually, yes, exactly, Kritika. D is an opposing point of view, because D says that a museum in Cologne isn't different from a museum of modern art in Chicago, which cannot be the case, right? The other three are telling us that they're all about uniqueness, and all of these have different architecture and different designs which are very, very unique. And D is kind of okay, yes, Kushagra, I agree, D is kind of negative also. The other three were very descriptive and very unique. D kind of took a negative tone and talked about similarity of two very different museums. Cool. That was quick, Kritika. All right. So when you look at this question, even though it is structured in a very complex manner, the question is basically asking you ki out of the five statements that are listed, right? Which statement would not be accepted by those objecting to the measure, right? Which statement would not be accepted by those objecting to the measure based on what the passage is saying. What is the passage telling us? The passage is telling us that, what, in considering how best to measure productivity, the assumption that we make is for postal workers that the more productive they are, the more number of letters they are delivering, right? Now the assumption is then challenged that what if the number of delayed and lost letters increases proportionally with the number of letters delivered. For example, there is a person A who delivers 50 letters, right? Person A is delivering 50. Person B delivers 35. But person A is losing 15 letters and person B is only losing 2 letters. Right? So who is more productive? That is what the question is here, that if a person is delivering 50 and losing 15, should we still maintain that that person is more productive than the other one? Right? So that is what the question is. Now, the point of objection is that why that the number of letters delivered is by itself an inadequate measure of postal workers productivity, because when you look at the quality of the work mein ye aa jata hai that a person who is delivering 35 is only losing 2, but a person who is delivering 50 is losing 15, right? So do we disregard the quality of work? No, we should not disregard the quality of work, right? The challenge is basically based on rejecting the idea that quality can be ignored when measuring productivity. So the answer D is in fact the correct answer in that regard. Kritika got it right. The quality of services rendered can appropriately be ignored in computing productivity. That is what they are kind of assuming when they write this passage, right? When you look at E, the number of letters delivered is relevant to measuring productivity. There is no question about this, guys. There is no doubt that counting letters delivered is part of measuring productivity. The challenge is to its being the only measure. The challenge is to not focus on quality while focusing only on quantity. Quantity is a relevant thing, but quality is also relevant, is what they were trying to get at. Alright, next question. Alright, thank you, Kritika, Hardik, for your answers. Alright, so when you look at it, the situation is they're saying that when hypnotized subjects are told that they are deaf and then asked whether they can hear the hypnotist, they reply no, right? Some theorists try to explain this result by arguing that the cells of hypnotized subjects are dissociated into separate parts and that the part that is deaf is dissociated from the part that replies. Okay, so we have a part that is deaf and a part that kind of replies. Okay. So yes, as I was saying that if there is a deaf part and if there is a replying part, and they are saying that these are two separate parts, then when you get no as a reply, that means you're not deaf at all. Why are you not replying with a yes? You're actually giving a reply, right? If even if you're replying with a no, you are basically replying. So when you're replying, why are you replying with a no? Right? So when asked by the hypnotist if they hear the question and they respond with a no, right? Now this is a very puzzling result. So according to the theory, hypnotized people dissociate themselves into separate parts, right? Hearing part and the deaf part. Then they must be using the hearing part of themselves when they respond to the hypnotist question, obviously, right? Even if they're responding with a no, they're hearing and then responding. So if they're using the deaf part of themselves at that point, they would not hear and they would not respond at all. So if they are using the hearing part of themselves, as the theorist maintains, then why would they respond with a no? Can they not respond with a yes? So option A is a correct answer in that regard. Why does the part that replies not answer with a yes? Now, Kushagra, you went with C, the theorists. Why do the subjects appear to accept the hypnotist's suggestion that they are deaf? Understand that the theorist's explanation, if true, can actually help answer this question. So, this challenge, it really does not indicate a weakness. The explanation, if true, can answer this question. It does not really indicate a weakness in that regard. ठीक है? Alright, wait. Before this, I want to solve a couple more reasoning questions that I had. Wait. For doing a comprehension. Yeah. Alright, wait. Uh, That is why I included some of them without options, no? Alright, almost all of you went with option C. Okay. And Manasvi went with option 4. Shrill alarm about. Okay. And I kind of agree with Manasvi. The answer is in fact option 4, right? Because when you look at it, look at the statement. Shrill alarm about the economic impact of an inadequate monsoon had been sounded by the center as well as most of the states in late July and early August. And then when you look at B, during the past week and a half, the central government has sought to deny some of the earlier wait, sorry. And then we go to C. The recent revival of the rains had led to the emergence of a line of divide between the two. The two refers to what? The two refers to center as well as the state. So there is a divide between center and the state. So after C, we go to B that during the past week, central government did this. And then we go to D that the state governments, on the other hand, did something else. Right? And then we conclude with A that the face off will continue for several months given the strong convictions on either side. So yeah, I think Manasvi got this bang on. Well done, Manasvi. Let's look at the next question. All right then. Kusha, Kritika, Hardik, you all have gotten it right. The answer is in fact option 2. So we open with this, one of the unsettled scientific questions in the late 18th century was the exact nature of the shape of the earth. And we go to E, while it was generally known, we are talking about the shape of the earth here. right? So we go to E, and after E, there is this question of how much more, right? The question of how much more is answered in D. One way of doing that is to determine the length of the arc along a chosen longitude or meridian at 1 degree latitude separation. Then we go to see that the length of 1 degree arc. This 1 degree arc is basically continued in C, so the keywords are the same. Would be less near the equatorial latitudes than at the poles, and then we go conclude with a this fact. What fact? This very fact. Right? This fact was established in the 1730s by French survey expeditions to Ecuador near the equator and Lapland in the Arctic, which found that around the middle of the earth the arc was about a kilometer shorter. All right, well done. Now look at this short passage. All right, Kushaku says false. Anybody else? Hardik says false as well. Okay. Okay, I agree with Manasvi here. The answer is in fact three. Cannot tell because see the passage is not really commenting directly on the feelings of children not included in the scheme, right? They're just saying that they may be overlooked, right? So it cannot be inferred from the content of the passage whether children not labeled as gifted, if they will feel like failures or they will not feel like failures, because there is no context given in the passage, so you cannot tell whether it will happen or not, right? Let's look at the next question. Guys, the passage is the same, just the question is different. It's so if you've read the passage, then you should be able to answer this quickly. Hi, Divya. Okay, the answer here is false, guys. यार तुम्हारा रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन तो आता ही है ना हार्दिक. So even if the format of the question is different, you will get passages and perhaps longer passages, not such short passages. um yeah, it is in fact false. Why? Because when you look at the line, right, in every school a teacher will be made responsible for identifying beneficiaries and they will rely on their peers assessments and national key stage tests, right? So when you look at it, the idea is that children will not be identified by their peers. It will be a project that will be led by teachers, right? A teacher will be made responsible in every school. They will lead on a project and they will rely on their peers to identify children, not the children themselves. Children themselves will not be identified by their peers. ठीक है. Next question. Okay, guys, read the question again. What is the question? The question is that a reason given for the initiative is that gifted or talented children may not always behave themselves. Manasvi has gotten it right. This is also false. Why? Because when you look at the line, however, teachers tend to recommend children who produce good work on paper and who behave themselves rather than the really gifted and talented ones. Right? So when you look at this, the idea essentially is that they are the gifted children may not always behave. That is given as a reason why the scheme may not succeed in identifying the really gifted or talented children rather than as a justification for the entire initiative. Right, ये जो reason है, this is why the scheme may not succeed. But here they're not asking you reason for why the scheme may fail. Here they're asking you why the initiative was identified and basically implemented in the first place. So here it is actually false. Good job, Manasvi, because the behavior, it is being listed as a reason for the failure of the initiative, not for the initiative in itself. ठीक है. All right, next question. All right, almost all of you say that it is false. Researchers have identified the forms of physical exercise that stimulate the growth of neurons in the hippocampus. Now, see, um, instead of it being false, I would rather go with cannot tell. Why? Because see, it is possible that the researchers, they've identified the form of beneficial exercise, but it is also possible that they've found only that exercise is a possible factor, it is a positive factor, but not a specific type of exercise. Right? Maybe they've only identified the idea that exercise is a positive factor, but they've not really identified the specific type of exercise. So I would rather go with cannot tell here instead of false. ठीक है. Next question. आउट ऑफ स्कोप है तभी तो मैं कैन नॉट टेल कह रहा हूँ कुशाग्र. They've not mentioned it, so it is still a possibility, or it might not be a possibility at all. The idea is that in either case, I don't know. This one you guys have gotten it right. यहाँ पे false आएगा. The intended audience of the passage is the physically inactive rather than the general population. Nope. We cannot identify for whom the passage was written, but we can conclude that it was not intended more for the group of physically inactive people over the population in general. See, I agree that we cannot tell for whom it was written, but we can conclude for a fact that it was not intended more for, a group of, because the question is the intended audience of the passage is the physically inactive rather than the general population. I might not know who it is meant for, right? But I can still conclude that it is not really meant more for a group of physically inactive people over the population in general, right? So that is why यहाँ पे I'll go with false. ठीक है. Last question in this format. These are slightly confusing, right? They kind of play with you, these questions. Divya, the phrase held to be basically allows for opposing views. When you say something is held to be true, that means that there is still possibility of disagreement. Some people might disagree with it. So the answer here is true. By saying that contraction of the hippocampus is held to be responsible, the author indicates that there may be disagreement to the point or on the point. Yes, in fact, that happens because held to be allows for that. Otherwise, the author would have structured it in a different way. ठीक है. एक second, guys. Divya, Hardik. All right. Okay, Manasvi also says one. Yes, all three of you have gotten it right. After this, for many scientists, oceans are the cradle of life. We go to sentence A. Why? Because A has a pronoun that is referring to oceans, right? Them. But all over the world, chemical products and nuclear waste continue to be dumped into them. Them refers to oceans. After this, we'll go to C. The result is that many species of fish die. Then we go to B. Coral reefs are also fast disappearing. And then we go to D. Of course, man is the root cause behind these problems. And then we already have the concluding statement. Cool. Next question. Okay, all of you are going with option 2. Alright. Um, right. Historically, stained glass was almost entirely reserved for ecclesiastical spaces. By all counts, he. Who are we referring to? The first was Like he designed. Okay. Two recent projects. So, yes, we cannot open with B and D at all. Sorry, we cannot open with C and D. Sorry. Just give me a moment, guys. B mein to we are actually taking the name of the person. Yes, just allow me a moment. Yes, we cannot open with C, we cannot open with D, we cannot open with A because all of them are using pronouns and we need to have a referent to the pronouns first. Clark is the referent to the pronouns, so therefore option 2 is the only viable alternative. Well done. So this particular question is a subject verb agreement plus tenses question. Now understand that the subject of the sentence is, after years of research, a team of doctors. When we are talking about a team of doctors, this is a collective noun, right? And whenever we are referring to a team, we always use a singular verb to refer to a collective noun, right? So team of doctors के साथ कभी भी we will not use a plural verb. It is a team, right? We are talking about a team. A team has finally concluded something elders have been telling us for decades. We should walk for half an hour and avoid half an hour. यहाँ पे एक and आना चाहिए, and avoid heavy dinner every day. Since we are talking about a team, we will use a singular verb. And has been finally concluding means that the action is still going on. No, the action is not going on. The action has already happened. That is why we go with option B and not with option C. And we eliminate options A and D. Why? Because the verbs are plural and we have a singular noun. Sorry. So, guys, with this, I'll wrap up the class now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm left with a comprehension, but I don't particularly have the time for it right now. Allow me to tell you about the iconic subscription that they've launched for CAT. Uh, Here you get personal mentors who can actually help you etch out your goals and work towards your goals and score really well in this year's management exams. Uh, we regularly conduct the Unacademy Combat every weekend. Even today, we had the Unacademy Combat at 12 p.m. Right? Make sure you register for the next one because number one, it is for free, and number two, you actually, you get a lot of perspective about where you stand in the learning journey because you have a live leaderboard going on. So there's those relative statistics that actually help you determine where you actually stand. Plus, you get data such as topic wise scores, the time you're spending on every question, and video solutions so that you can work on the areas that you are not really, strong at. These are a few batches that we're launching these days. You can look up these educators and start learning from them for free before deciding whether you'd want to enroll or not. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. We also have a new Ask a Doubt feature on our application. So, you can actually interact with your educators, post pictures of the doubts, of the questions that you have, right? And your educators will definitely respond. If not in real time, very, very soonly, right? So, do explore this particular feature on the application. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Thank